thinking if I was someone who wasn't really as informed about all of this, what the Constitution says and everything, I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, if I'm not going to get money now for my town from the government, federal government, and from the state, then how is my town going to be able to come up with enough money to fund the school?
Ultimately, no matter how you slice it, there's only one source of money for education.
It's the people.
It's the people. Whether you're paying a town tax and the money goes directly into the schools, or whether you're paying a state tax and it goes to Concord, and some people get paid to give the money back to you, or it goes to Washington, D.C., and some people get paid to give the money back to the state, who get paid to give it back to you.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty evident which way is the most efficient.
Cut out the middleman.
Cut out the middleman, especially since all they're doing is giving you back your own money. I mean, we have this belief in our society now that somehow if we're getting money from the federal government or the state, that somebody else is paying our freight. Mm-hmm. But in the end, everybody is believing that somebody else is paying for their freight. And, there's a famous philosopher from the 1850s, Frenchman, who stated it this way: it is the system of government where everybody lives at the expense of everybody else. Mm. And ultimately, it doesn't save you any money.
Right. Yes.
And ultimately, it costs money because you're paying people to distribute your money back to you.
So I'm kind of interested now how the funding. So what you're saying is the town, whatever money the town raises through its property taxes, will stay in the town, and won't go anywhere else. And then what is the legislature going to do?
The legislature can raise money from whatever method it feels. Right now we use the statewide property tax. We could take it out of any of the other taxes. We could take it out of the general fund. We could dedicate some other tax to it. We could do whatever we think is the proper way to raise money. And we can distribute that money back to the towns in the manner that we feel best meets the needs of the people. Whether it's per head, or we skew it some way to towns that have been disadvantaged or suffered some natural calamity, that will be up for the legislature to decide.
And what you're saying is that at that point, that is where the people need to be paying attention to who they're electing as their representative and whether or not that person will be willing to go in and take that issue as the main issue to work on.
Which they're always supposed to be doing anyway.
Well, yes, but, we're human, right?
Well,
we do things sometimes for our own interest rather than that of others, but...
hopefully a legislator is not doing something for their own interest rather than others, because the power they're wielding belongs to others. It's not their own.
Right. But I think this is wonderful because this bill really brings it all back and helps people to really understand that, they're ultimately have to be involved in understanding what's going on in the Constitution. What does the Constitution mean, and how does it function, and what are we going to do to ensure that its longevity?
Well, another important factor in this is we went into this legislative session with, I think, about 5 or 6 constitutional amendments proposed by both chambers of the legislature. Uh-huh. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the last man standing.
Okay.
So if we're going to settle the Claremont issue, put the legislature firmly back in control, which is where it should have been in the first place, because that's what puts the people firmly in control.
Right, and what took it out is, again, the judge's opinion.
Well, the judge's opinion, also the people amended the Constitution in 1966 that took away legislative authority over education, in my opinion. which opens the door for the judiciary
Right, to make decisions.
to make substantive opinions in that regard. If the Constitution says, as it did originally, that it's the legislature that has the power to authorize schools, then it becomes the line of authority from the people to the legislature.
It's now been usurped.
Broken.
It's been broken.
Right now it's been broken, but if we put back in that the clear line of authority is from the people to the legislature to the schools, then it puts the people back in the driver's seat.
Yay.
Rather than at the back of the school bus.
Yeah, I like being in the driver's seat. I mean, it's my taxes too, right?
It's your taxes. I mean, if your goal is to reduce the cost of education, to make sure that the first job of your local school is educating your child, rather than executing some social agenda, don't you want that to be in the hands of the government official over whom you have control,
right?
Rather
that you
than
have the most voice,
rather than the government official over whom you have no control?
Absolutely. So at this point, Dan, this bill amendment CACR 8 it's been in committee, but it's been on hold. It's going to be coming out.
It'll be coming out in January.
In January. So what we need is people to call and support?
Well, ultimately in January, I mean, it would be premature now.
Right.
All of the bills that are retained from last session are the first bills out in January.
Okay.
So while we're having the public hearings on all the other stuff that's just been introduced, these things will be being handled on the floor of the House and going over to the Senate, and the Senate has some retained bills as well, of course.
So you just need to keep your, eyes and ears out for this, and then in January, be sure to contact your local representative about this bill and whether or not you want them to support it. And thank you so much for taking all the time to really explain all the reasons for why this particular amendment has been brought forward, and the fact that you're looking to return not only control to the legislature, but also ultimately control back to the people for local education. And I wanted to take a moment. You've been referencing this particular little book you have here, which is the New Hampshire Constitution, but this one is different because this is one where you have gone through. Well,
actually, not me.
And
what I did is, in my study of the Constitution and looking at the parchment version in the archive, I saw that there was, things like capitalization and punctuation that had been dropped over the years. So, and the Secretary of State, who I consider to be a good friend, agreed that it had been dropped. So for the beige cover book has this edition of the Constitution as well. This is one that was put together by Howard Kaufman. He was a candidate for state rep in Nashua, and so I got him a version. I got him the corrected version or corrected edition of the Constitution. What we've done is, for all the articles that have never been amended, all of the capitalization is the same as in the 1792 Constitution.
Neat. So can people get a copy of that version?
Well, a funny thing happened on the way to the printers. It would be difficult right now.
Okay.
The beige version from the last 2 years has the right punctuation, and grammar in it. What was just delivered to the Secretary of State, they must have picked up an old file. And
so they printed.
They printed it with the wrong capitalization.
Okay. So
that's
don't get the version, this year's version.
Well, I think it's going to get corrected. He said to me, it will be taken care of.
Okay.
One way or another. I don't know how, but obviously it was not his mistake. It was the printer's mistake.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would really encourage you to look for this particular version, and
I still have a few in my truck.
Get the real scoop on what the Constitution has to say and the true meaning. And again, we have punctuation, and
Well, and I've been writing a commentary over the past
that's
4
right.
years.
You do have a commentary. Is that available for people to be able to get a hold of? Or?
Yeah, I mean, when I speak, I have it available.
Okay.
If you email me, itsenh@comcast.net.
itsenh
At Comcast.
at comcast.net.
Well,
we'll put that up on the our YouTube as well, so that people view it. They can get that information and contact you to get a copy.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we had one more bill that we wanted to kind of talk about, and then we don't have too much time left, but maybe we can. That was the marriage.
Oh.
And the reason that I brought it up is because you have such a long history. I mean, you saw years ago the need for a marriage amendment. So this is not anything new for you at all. In fact, when I met you, which was in 2006, I think, you had a constitutional amendment at that time to codify marriages between the union of one man and one woman. At that time,
which I believe to be in the Constitution, actually by implication, is not explicit in the Constitution, but paying attention to the capitalization, there are two kinds of words capitalized. Those that have some pre-existing definition of some institution, like legislature, constitution, state, and those that are defined in the Constitution, like governor, senator, representative, executive counselor. In Part 2, Article 76, which is the one article that deals explicitly with marriage, saying that all issues of marriage, alimony, and divorce, and appeals from probate will be handled in the Superior Court until the legislature decides otherwise or determines otherwise, whatever the precise language is. The word marriage, like the word legislature, is capitalized. So by inference, it says this is an pre-existing institution to the Constitution that we recognize. If we go back to the definition in 1781, it was a union of a man and woman for life.
Right.
And most commonly instituted through the church. So they knew what they meant. They have it referred to in the Constitution as something that pre-exists the Constitution. And by my reading, and it's too long to go into detail in the minute and a half left, but we had no authorization to redefine marriage, and it really brings you to the fundamental question. Is it the society, the people who define their government, or does the government allow to define the society? I believe it's the former. I believe that it's the people, their religious heritage, their societal heritage that defines the government they institute.
And if you look at everything else that we've talked about tonight, it's all about from the people to the government. So it doesn't make sense that the government should be going the other way around, which was what happened to us recently in the redefinition of marriage.
Part 1, Article 8, all power in government, all power originates in the people and is derived from them. End of story.
End of story. We're going to have you back so you can talk to us more about that, because that, I think, is such a vital question to where we are today. But I want to thank you so much, Representative Itse, for coming, sharing with us. Every single time you come, I learn something absolutely new, and I just appreciate you. And thank you so much for your service to our state for how many terms now? 5,
I'm
6?
in the middle of my 6th term, so
6th term.
I've completed 11 sessions of the legislature.
Well, God bless you, and again, thank you so much from all of us for what you've done for us. We appreciate you. So join us again for Caring for New Hampshire. God bless you.